My name's Letitia Lemke and I'm a general reporter in the 7pm newsroom for television and radio at ABC in Ultimo, Sydney. We don't have the pressures that commercials would be under to create interest. It has to be worthy on a whole number of different news levels to get a run, and it is a sausage factory in one way. You know, you have to fill a 30-minute bulletin, and if there's nothing happening on a Sunday, then yeah, sure, maybe you just have to create interest in a story that's not that worthy. But I think there's a good balance and not the kind of pressures on you to just sexy up a story, but to get to what the important things are, why it's important for the community to know about this, and focus on that. There's a lot of pressure, particularly if you're filing for things from ICAC or you're filing from courts, really if you're filing from anywhere, because it's not just, I mean, online is a huge pressure now because all of a sudden everyone's got a Twitter handle. You're supposed to be tweeting your updates while you're listening, while you're writing your radio script, and you're preparing what you're going to be saying live to News 24 and thinking about your package at the end of the day for 7pm news. So there are huge pressures, and I think the difficulty is staying on top of the basic principles, which are, you know, first and foremost, accuracy. So yes, you want to be, it's so important to be relevant and timely, but you have to be accurate, and that has to come first, and you have to look at the ethics of a story as well, the relevance of putting out the picture of a dead person. Yes, you've got it first, but do you put it out if the family haven't been notified? Just trying to make sure that you're not losing everything for speed. You always have to be aware of what situation you're going into and respectful of it as a journalist. Whether you're going into a Muslim community in Western Sydney or out to a remote community in the Northern Territory interviewing Aboriginal people, you have to be aware of where you are and be dressed appropriately. That sounds so dumb to say that. But I've seen journalists go out in string singlets and shorts to a remote community. You're not camping. You're going out into a space where people are very modest. And when you're going into other people's space and you're asking them to share something with you, then I think you need to be as just not an obstacle. Just fit into the space so that then you're in a better position to be able to talk to people who wouldn't normally want to talk to you. That's not within their space. I think that's something that I found more so in Sydney than in the Northern Territory. Going out into remote communities, it is difficult trying to find people who, you know, are confident in talking to the media, who want to talk to the media after the kinds of stories that the media have done on Mutitjulu. I don't know if you followed that, but there have been cases where, and particularly the intervention, where communities have just been bombarded by government bureaucracies, by journalists, and the last thing they want to do is talk to you. So you have to be as neutral as possible and respectful of their space. But I found it possibly more difficult moving to Sydney and trying to interview people within the Muslim community, particularly religious people who perhaps wouldn't normally speak with a woman. So I think in any setting, even in the city, you can't escape that. You have to be aware of your social context. I was really privileged to see a lot of different cultures and experience a lot of different cultures. And so living in the Northern Territory, perhaps the biggest difficulty was that a lot of people in different communities, you're talking about hundreds of different languages and different cultures across the Northern Territory. So you're really trying to cross language barriers. That's difficult. But perhaps it has, growing up with my mum speaking a different language and the rest of my family speaking a different language, perhaps that has given me some insight into different communities and the importance of news representing all the different groups within a community.